It's just nerves.
Mm-hmm.
Ruben uncovered a major thing this week that I've really had to work through, and it's part of this. Coming out and speaking thing is tied to it completely. And so it's a big doozy is what it was that kind of took me.
Yeah, you mentioned it when we were texting back and forth this week. And I was reluctant to ask you. I didn't want to interfere.
Are we, is there anybody in here yet?
Yes. We're joined by 3 other people at the moment. So
okay.
Why don't we have this conversation later?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll have to tell you, because he actually figured out kind of a key and how a lot of things are tied together through his research.
Mm-hmm.
And it was something that I didn't have any understanding of, and it just it blew me away. So now I know why I have this speaking and coming out and talking about these things, and why I get so full of anxiety. Because I've talked to you, I can talk about this stuff for hours.
Yeah.
And I love it. So it's not that. It's coming out to the world with the information.
Well, that's why we're here. We're bridging that gap.
We are. Through you. So, yes. And I owe you an apology.
Okay.
I just do. I want you to know that I take full responsibility, and I generally am not like this, but it's also tied to all this other stuff that happened at the same time. So
yeah, I tend to move fast and wanted to make arrangements. And just for anybody who's listening and who's joining us, Beverly and I talked about, because I've gotten a number of people who have asked me to see if I can make arrangements for a session for Beverly, since she didn't have anything booked. And I put up I quickly put up a website for her, along with a booking system, and we still have to test it out and work it through. We have to go through a number of things that I have on my list that I will need from Beverly, because we already anticipate that there will be people who want to have a session with Beverly, and we want to be able to honor that, and to do so in a way that doesn't create that makes the process fairly straightforward and easy for everybody, Beverly and the potential client as well.
Yeah.
That's the idea.
Definitely.
So no worries, Beverly, in your time, and I'm sure there will be great understanding. You're moving rather quickly right now. You went from 0 to 60 in the course of just a few days.
Yeah. I can't wait to disclose a little bit more. I really... With you personally first, obviously, because it's really... It took me 2 days of crying, let's just put it that way. And I'm not a very emotional, I really am not a real emotional person, unless, it really speaks deep, to a very deep part of me. Other than that, I'm pretty good about, just flowing with things.
Hi, I'm Joe Pena, and this is Enlighten Me with Beverly Rickard. We're doing the Beverly Rickard series. This is episode 2, and today is about the human value system. There may be some things that you'll find that may be very familiar to you, and other things, especially in the way Beverly ties them together, that perhaps will give you an aha moment. And as it pertains to what your role is as we move along this ascension journey, this move between 3D and 5D, etc. Welcome to everybody, and Beverly Rickard, it's all yours.
All right. Hello, everybody. I'm so excited to be here and discuss this subject. It is so dear to my heart. This whole thing started years ago when I received a vision, a very colorful, in-depth vision, while I was drinking coffee in the morning with my father, of all people. And my father was very resistant. And at that time, I felt like I needed to tell him to quit being resistant. This is what's going to happen, whether you like it or not. And then I thought, oh, he's the resistance. And that helped me understand what we're all going to be coming up against. Some of us are going to be resistant to this new energy, to these new ideas, and kind of why and how that happens. And so let's start this. So in the vision, I was pretty much shown that just like any human evolutionary point, we are hitting the next stage in our human evolution. And what that means is we have created computers and technology and robots. And now we're going to create these technologies to do the things that humans do. All of the things that humans do: build houses, grow food, transport items, everything that a human does, we are going to pretty much implement it into a technological form, and it's going to be done for us. Now, slowly, as we integrate this energy, people are going to resist it. They're going to fear it. They're going to want to control it. They're going to not want to jump on board. And what I'd like everybody to realize is that this happened in the Industrial Revolutionary time, when automobiles were first being created and machines were being created and factories to do things, for the humans. And we didn't just go from the wagon wheel into the automobile overnight. There was a lot of resistance when that happened. And so I want everybody to kind of go back to that point and realize we're exactly hitting that exact same energy again. And there's going to be a resistance against technology doing all of the things that humans do. And part of it has to do with our value system. And our value system has been created off of what we do. We have become human doings, which I know a lot of people have heard. But to really actually see it in that perspective, it's raw truth. We are valued for what we do, whether we are filling sodas at a McDonald's, whether we're driving a truck of groceries to the store, whatever it is, the human has to do it. And we've created this value system around what the human does. Now, as we grow in this age and we create these things to do these things for us, our entire value system has to change. So where does that leave us? That leaves us where we actually have to go inward, everybody, and we have to bring it back into our true soul purpose. We have to find that thing that makes us tick, that lights up our heart, that makes us want to get up every day and feel excited again. Because I can tell you, not a lot of people are doing what excites them, what brings them joy, what is fulfilling to their heart space. And so that is pretty much where we're at. We're going to see resistance against this, but what I want everyone to understand is how this is actually beautiful and how we can take this and we can vibrationally shift it into something that is positive. It does not have to control us. It doesn't have to take over. It doesn't have to do all this fear and control stuff. That is all falsely imprinted anyway from our third dimensional aspect and point of view. We are literally the third planet from the sun. We live on a third dimensional planet. That is where we have evolved to, is third dimension. And if everybody can go and look at the chakra points in the body, the main 7, because chakras are all over the body, I am referring to the 7, the main 7. And if you look at the first, the second, and the third, we have integrated all the way up into the third chakra energy standpoint in human evolution. That all has to do with human desires, human ego, survival, taking one person down, to gain. This is all about, fear, right? Is someone better than you? You're going to fear that. So you're not going to want to help them come into their heart and be their true self and help them grow, because what if that takes from you? What What if you're not getting your needs met? That's all third dimensional energy. This next energy has everything to do with us coming into the fourth center chakra space, which has to do with the heart. And the heart, it has everything to do with what we feel in our soul, what we feel in our spirit, and not what we're being fed from the mind. Okay, the mind and the heart are two different things, and they speak two different languages. And we have not perfected the heart energy, and we have allowed the mind to come in and try to tell the heart what it's feeling when it isn't true. And that all has to do with us living under this age that we've lived under, which is the age of Pisces, if anybody knows, which is built upon illusions. We have not broke through into the age of Aquarius, but we are getting small leaks of energy into what that looks like. That age is not going to happen for at least another 100 and some years, but we're not going to just blink and be in the age of Aquarius with flying cars and everybody's loving. No, we have work to do before we can welcome in this next age of integration. Joe, do you have any questions so far?
I don't have any questions. I just want to underscore a couple of things that you talked about, because you're moving along actually somewhat quickly. And I want to summarize for people that you talked about where we're at today. Today being, as it relates to the third level of within our chakras, and that we're moving up to our fourth one, to live from the heart. And that our mind in the third dimension has been essentially what's been driving the show, running the show up until now, and we're in that transition stage. So I would just like to point out, Beverly, that we're all unique individuals. We all have different paths. We all have different journeys, and we're all at different stages of this development. So could you comment to that, instead of all being all here and then suddenly one day we're all there, but instead it more truly looking like people are scattered somewhere along the bridge between that spectrum between the third and the fourth chakra being integrated?
Yes. It's going to take time for the fourth chakra to be integrated. The energy just reached the earth. That was that conjunction that we had between Saturn and Jupiter on December 21st, 2020. And I could explain more into that here in a minute, but let's talk about how everybody is so separated right now and it's so different. So everybody literally has to integrate this energy as an individual. And we all have to do the work as an individual to understand this illusion that we've been living in. And it's going to look different for all of us at a soul level. We all have carried on different memories from this lifetime and other lifetimes that need to be processed up until this point for us to integrate a new vibrational energy. It's almost like you can't pack anymore into a packed refrigerator. You have to start opening the refrigerator up. You have to get rid of the moldy things. You have to clean the shelves out. And each person, this is going to look differently. And we all have to do this individually, which is going to help in a collective sense. And as we're cleaning this, and then this new energy starts taking place and coming into our heart space, we will all start slowly shifting into understanding what it's really like to be in a heart-centered place.
So, I mean, I guess the bottom line is I really want to underscore that. So much that I've seen over the last several years assumes it's like one big leap, and I'd like to emphasize that as we continue to go along. And just because someone's a little further along doesn't make them any better, and someone who's a little further behind doesn't make them any lesser at all, does it?
No. And we will further understand that as we come more into our heart space, because we will be knocking down the ego system. And the ego system is all built on, higher, lower, negative, positive, bad, good, evil, godlike. That's all a third dimensional aspect. And once we all start to realize that that's all a fabrication, it's all an illusion, and the human system for where it's evolved to has created these things, we're going to slowly start coming into our heart space and realizing how untrue the illusion is. It's all been an illusion. There is no good. There is no bad. It's all just polarity of vibrational energy. That's all it is. And once we can come into our heart and feel things, then we get to pick and choose at a vibrational stance in our heart place what we want to allow in and what we want to pay attention to and what feels good. Once we get very acclimated with it, and we are better at doing this.
Okay. Yeah, you touched on something that I don't know if this is widely known among this audience. Maybe it is, but I do narrations with Blossom Goodchild, and she channels the Federation of Light and their messages, which are very loving, and I really resonate with them. And somewhere along the way, they spoke about, essentially they use this phrase, "it doesn't matter," as it pertains to what happens here on the earth plane. Well, they were delivering that message from a very, very, very high perspective where things are playing out. They're looking at things differently than we do. And you said something that is somewhat similar to that in terms of there is no good and there is no bad. Well, be hard-pressed to convince a lot of people of that. So I think a person would have to be at a certain level of awareness or consciousness to readily accept that. So what more can you say to help underscore why you say there is no good and there is no bad?
In my integration of understanding with the energy, and up until this point, I have learned to what I call is alchemize the energy. And when I start perceiving something as bad and something that doesn't feel good, I have to sit with that and allow it, because that pushing it away makes it stronger. So I sit with it, invite it in, and then I have to sit there and consciously figure out how to flip the coin, so to speak, alchemize the energy into what feels good. It, in a sense, transmitting and transmuting the energy from what feels one way into how it feels a better way, something that's more in my heart. And that's, to me, it's like teaching ourselves how to alchemize the energy, neutralizing in a sense.
And just as a review, I heard you speak about resistance, our resistance to what we judge as being good or bad, and about recognizing that we're in a position to be able to allow and perhaps eventually accept, especially. And what I like is that you use the term alchemize, and that's essentially transforming your own experience of whatever that is you may have judged a moment ago by virtue of shifting your perspective to one of, you know what, I know that if I continue to judge this, I'm not really doing myself any good. I might feel better that I judge it as being wrong and bad, but it's not truly helping me to increase my own personal development and level of consciousness. Yeah.
Right. And it does go further. It goes further into how this third dimensional reality was created anyway. And when we look at how the polarities are, this pendulum, so to speak, has been swinging so far from left to right, good, bad, dark, evil, wonderful, beautiful. I mean, we have to really figure out how to come into neutrality. And to do that, we have to start taking control and understanding that a lot of this is passed on DNA, molecular memories from past lives, this experiences, ancestors that all exist in this realm of this planet. And we are living it out. And we have to start figuring out how to not live it out anymore, because now we have this fourth density consciousness to start filling in the places where we have created this off-kilter swing. And we have to stop the swing and alchemize the energy and become more centered in our space and in our heart and feel what's true and get to choose more about how we feel. A lot of these things are built off of fear. Fear is a big thing. I mean, fear has been built into everything. Anything you fear, you should dive right into that and you should challenge it and you should start looking for the truth wherever fear exists. Because fear was put there as a wall to block us all from doing the things that we truly are supposed to be doing. It's a form of control. We do not want to be controlled anymore. All of us in our hearts feel that we do not want to be controlled anymore. And now we have the energy to start understanding how to remove the fear, how to remove the control, and how to love each other, which is all part of what people are talking about this Aquarian age. You know, we're coming together as humanity and it's beautiful rainbows and, you know, butterflies. And yes, in a sense, yes, but we have a lot of work to do to get there. And it starts with each individual. This doesn't just click into place. We have to literally break down an entire third dimensional ego-based existence of energy that we have all contributed to creating.
So, first of all, you're saying that there's work for us to do. Many people call it shadow work. Call it what you want. We just have to clear all that crap from 3D. Fear, anger, jealousy, rage, all those lower emotions. Yes?
Yeah.
And given the context of what you spoke about, us getting into a new technological revolution, what kind of a time frame do you see us as a humanity processing these kinds of shadows within each of us that we have? Is it something that you see happening over the next decade, 2 decades, next 2 years? What?
So time, when I get these visions and messages, is never in the time frame of what we understand, because the messages aren't coming from this existence and it's not linear. That's another misinterpretation that people have. They always want that for certain on this day at this time, this is going to happen. But honestly, it takes us all vibrationally as a collective to do this together to set that time in motion. And so if we want to look at timing, we look at how we're evolving together. I know that we're all separated, and I understand how that can be a positive thing. But part of this is taking the responsibility that every action and decision that you make in your mind and choice that you bring into the world affects each person as a collective in this reality that we all share. So as a collective, the more we can spread positive information, help people work through this, you know, shadow work, whatever people want to call it, the more we can help, instead of going, oh, if I help them, they're going to be further along than me. No, that's third dimensional existence reality stuff. And we have to start understanding that. The more we help each other, the more that we process things, the more we value the human life for what it is. We're not human doings, we're human beings. And we all need to learn to be in existence together from a loving standpoint. And I'm not saying a pendulum swing like heightened love and all of that. No, just neutral. I can sit in a room with you and I don't feel threatened. I don't have to feel excited. I can just be. And it's a beautiful thing for us all to work at just being. That's what a lot of this is about. We have to recreate the value system for each other by breaking down the third dimensional reality constraints that we all contributed to creating.
Okay. So, with that said, unless you have something more that you want to add as additional information to present, I'd like to ask, so where do you propose people start?
From within. It's always from within.
Mm-hmm.
Take each moment. I have learned to do this. Take each moment and fully feel the moment. And start using discernment on what your brain is feeding you and what your heart is feeding you. And when your mind is trying to feed you fear and anxiety and uncertainty, dig into it, question it, go into it, and find how to bring it into a loving space. The fastest way, without me doing a deep shadow work dive in the middle of a day, let's say I'm in my car driving somewhere and I get ignited by a lyric in a song. Okay, we're humans, different things. We have reactions to so many things throughout the day. And when I have these reactions that I realize, I become conscious of, and I realize this is not good. I don't feel good. I ask it to be removed, to be put somewhere it cannot harm anybody else, and to be replaced with the white light, the golden light. And then I picture and envision this light just enveloping me. And whatever those thoughts and feelings were, they literally dissolve. It's my quickest, easiest way to alchemize energy throughout the day on a daily basis without feeling weird in front of people that aren't quite up to spec yet, right? We're in a room and I'm triggered. What am I going to do? I can do that instantly and quickly. And no one has to know even. So that's part of it.
All right. All right. So that I would consider that to be, let's call that an advanced level of shadow work. You sit there, you recognize the shadow, you compose yourself, and you process it and you're talking about doing this in the presence of others, while still in the presence of that situation that triggered you. So what you just provided is an example of what somebody's capable of doing. And many people have been capable of taking a few deep breaths. And we don't necessarily consider that shadow work, but look, they're making the effort to compose themselves and not fly off in a rage if they got triggered, for example. So there's something to be said for the steps to get from where someone has never heard of shadow work or things like that to the point where, like you described, they can be even right in the presence of whatever it was that triggered them and shift their state into something that is in alignment with what they prefer and know to be to their benefit. Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
It's like a lead by example. That's my biggest thing for the last 2 weeks is if you want this, you have to lead and you have to set an example. Whether people realize it or not, we're all vibrationally contributing. So if I go into a situation where a room is full of people and I'm triggered, I could set somebody else off. I do not want that responsibility, and I don't think it's a high vibrational thing for any of us. So I responsibly remove the energy for the time being, and I transmit it. So it's leading by example. We want everybody to feel good, to feel loved, to feel accepted. And if we are not feeling that way, we're not contributing to upping our value system and humanity. We're contributing to the old regime, this ego, survival, jealousy, and I'm going to take what you have and I want what you have. And that's the other thing. Once we have everything we need, when we have gotten to the point in our evolution where robots and machines and technology is doing everything for us, we don't lift a finger. Who are we? What makes us valuable? I ask everybody that to live in that space now, because once you integrate your heart and all your needs are met, you're going to think of the world as a completely different place. You're going to want to step into what makes you feel passionate. You're going to step into your purpose. That's what each soul is here to do. We all do not have the same purpose. Not one is alike. And that's the beauty of this whole experience.
Beautiful. Let's focus on that for a moment, because this is exactly what I was referring to when I sent out the email about having this aha moment. So what you presented is a scenario where we go through a period of time where technology is more and more being rolled out for the benefit of what some might consider displacing humans from their jobs, and will continue to move in that direction. Very much like the automobile replaced horses. So there will be perhaps resistance, etc., that kind of thing. And we're going to go through that. We didn't experience it when that happened, the horse and buggy to the automobile, but we're going to experience it now between people having jobs where they do stuff and being replaced by technology that will do it for them instead. So the value system you're talking about, to underscore this, is that people found value in working, pride, for example, in doing a good job, being compensated for it, buying a home, putting a roof over their family's head, food on the table, buying things, whatever they might be, having disposable income they can go and have an enjoyable life outside of the home. Our value system was kind of based around that in general, as a society, as a global society for many of the developed countries. And what I hear you saying now is, okay, well, there's nothing to do. What am I going to do? What? So, I mean, it would be nice if somebody sat down calmly and asked themselves, what am I going to do? But in all likelihood, they're going to have some real challenges adapting to life as it was to life as it will be.
Yes, we're the first wave.
Tell me about the next one.
So the next one would be the children that are coming up into this world, and their children after that, and those children. But we have to start the process. We have to start dissolving this energy, because we have already learned that this stuff is passed down genetically through cellular memory. We are literally living our ancestors' passed on memories of survival. We have to process this energy in a respected way and then change the status quo as it goes on through the stages of existence. But it starts here. Just like when the first automobile was created. I mean, people were fearful, for sure. And there's so much more tied to this. I think disclosure is also tied to this. And there's a lot of that going on right now in the news. But I really feel like it's tied to it for sure.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And it's happening at a pace that's very slow. I don't know who's in charge of setting that pace, but perhaps it's part of a greater plan as far as the timing goes for it, which would then, in association with what you're suggesting here that we would be going through, would prolong the time for humanity to move from where we are within our current value system to where you're proposing that we will need to be with a new value system.
Yeah. Okay.
So I just went like this for today's value system and like this for tomorrow's value system. And I also see because, doing film editing, etc., there's like this cross dissolve between the two. The old value system will slowly fade away. The new one, I propose it already has begun to fade in.
Yes.
And will continue to over whatever period of time that you indicated is irrelevant for this. It can take however long it takes, but it's going to happen.
It depends on us.
Yes. Okay.
And how we process this whole thing. But disclosure is going slow because they don't want us in fear. All of the fear that was built up around the ETs and aliens and angels and what have you, like full disclosure, they honestly don't want us to be in fear. It's the third dimensional beings that kept us in fear, to build that wall, to not make us want to question it, that made us chastise others who had these experiences. When in fact, these experiences, they were real. And that's really sad. That's really sad for us to do that to other human beings. But that was all built in the egocentric standpoint that we created. And so disclosure is going to go slow, because these other beings that are actually here to help us evolve and change into this next vibration, because they do realize this vibration has now reached the earth, they are wanting to help us. And that's why it's slow. You know, when you're in a park with a stranger, if the stranger walks up to you and starts offering you candy and wants you to get in their car, you're going to go directly into fear. Disclosure has to go slow, so everybody can learn to process and integrate this information in a positive way, so we can use it from our heart space, where we feel comfortable, where we're ready to be open to this new understanding of all of this, all of it.
Okay. You brought up disclosure, you brought in the ET subject, and you say they're here. I would submit to you that very much like humans, here on the earth, we run the gamut from very dark to very light. And I'm not talking about skin color. I'm talking about vibrational energy within us. People who mean you great harm, to people who are very loving and caring and giving in all the higher ways a person can be. Elena Denon, who speaks, you could say, authoritatively on this subject by virtue of her own personal experience, as well as I'm sure many others do, who has an awareness that there are ETs that span that spectrum, just like humans span that spectrum. So you can find some that are extremely dark, who mean you very, very ill will, and others who are essentially what we call light beings, who vibrate at the highest whatever, and everything in between. So that kind of adds to it. You're talking about disclosure, something that will go along slowly. And when I think of ETs anymore, there's this whole granularity, this whole spectrum of ETs to take into consideration for potential contact or whatever we think about them. And that leads to something that is very evident to me and has been for some time, and that's discernment. So, and that pertains to disclosure, and maybe we don't have to go there, especially if there's something more for you to present, but I felt compelled to say that.
No, that's wonderful. Yes, there's polarity in all the dimensions. And so, of course, but right now with the human understanding of this subject matter, I would say a very large percentage of us would go into fear immediately, even if it wasn't something that was vibrationally going to harm us. And so I think that's part of why we're stepping slowly into disclosure, because right now it's all bad. They're all bad. They're all going to hurt us. They're from other planets. We don't understand them. They have higher technologies. They're going to overtake us. They're going to power us. They're going to control us. They're going to take our goods from this earth. They're going to, right? So we have to slowly disclose. We have to put the truth out there, and we have to allow humans to really come up to speed with what the truth actually is. And that's part of breaking down the illusion we've been living in the age of Pisces. It really is. Because this whole thing's been an illusion. Does that help?
You added some framework around that, all of which, like from a 3D perspective, is going to take time. A slow disclosure rollout, a slow adaptation by humanity as a whole. I mean, I'm sure many of us are proceeding at different paces, like we talked about, things happening at an individual level. Yeah. Okay, so what else do you have?
Well, a lot of things, actually. So I have been asked about the shift a little bit the last couple of weeks from some other people in conversation. And they have said, well, in some of my sessions, and I believe it's in some of the sessions, or it could be in personal conversations, not exactly sure, but there was disclosure that they were creating the exact same replica of this reality, but it was vibrationally different than the one that exists now. And they were slowly like moving it closer and then trying to see how these two vibrations would play off of each other to see how close we are to integrating them together, like existing at the same time, but vibrationally different for, in a sense, so we can all actually coexist without harming each other with wherever we decide to go within this shifting process. The people that don't want to shift have a purpose. They aren't like, they're not bad people. And that's what I want everyone to understand. Anybody that is getting vaccinations, anybody that doesn't believe in shifting, or they want to hold on to that money system, because the monetary system is all part of human value, which is why our monetary system is already changing. That this is all part of it. But the people that want to hold on to that, we have to thank them. We really have to thank them, because without them, we wouldn't understand the direction that we want to go. There would be no polarity to understand. You know, you can't have dark without light. You have to have an explanation of both. And once you understand and explain both, bring it into neutrality. So your pendulum quits swinging, in a sense.
Yeah. I did some work with a lady, and she presents things from about quantum manifestation. That's what she referred to overall, and presented things in what you might call a very logical and essentially a scientific approach, a lot of which was over a lot of people's heads, understandably. And yet, by the same token, one of the concepts that she kept coming back to, using a certain terminology, was getting to the 0 point. And what you're using in a very regular, everyday thing, which I really appreciate, is just relating to people in their own language by letting them know that it's ideal for the time being to get back to neutrality. That's the objective, is to get back there. Not to the extreme left or to the extreme right, but instead right in the middle. Yes?
Right. Yes. And that's another thing that brings up in the conversation of manifestation. We really have been working with all the energy that we have in this third dimension, right? Which is all the ego-based manifesting power that we can knowingly know how to access in our mind. So we take this third dimensional ego, right? And we're like, I want the big house. I want the new car, right? That's all ego-based, because it's actually not coming from our heart. And once people will start to understand this, but we're taking our third dimensional understanding, we're putting it into our mind, which is, in a sense, it's in a fourth dimensional computer system, but it isn't actually connected to the heart. Okay, up until this last transit that we had in December, the heart wasn't connected to this. So what we were doing is we were taking our third dimensional ego, we were reaching it into our mind, which can access like the superhighway of the fourth dimensional consciousness. And then we were reaching straight into 5D energy and saying, okay, bring it here. And we weren't actually in our heart. And that disconnect right there was leaving a lot of people confused about manifestation. Manifestation has to be connected to the heart space. And that's what part of this whole process is about, this integration of our heart consciousness. Once we truly are in our heart, we can sit and be, and we can connect that to our consciousness in the fourth of our mind, and then reach into the fifth, which is all just vibrational energy, by the way. It doesn't know time. It doesn't know anything. It's just vibrational energy that we're reaching into. But we have to reach into it from our heart and then bring it back down to where we are. Now, when we're reaching up from 3 into 5, and we've got all of this like I want, I need, I have to have, I want, to look better, to do this, we're not in our heart. And we're literally reciprocating that same energy into our existence, because this energy it's just reflecting this energy. It's not reflecting the object that you seek. It's reflecting your energy. So once we come back in and we know something, and then we can truly feel the something, and then we reach up and then we bring it in. It's completely different. But now we're going to truly understand this, and we're going to have access to this more frequently as we continue to grow in the fourth density consciousness, connected to our heart space.
Okay. We've only got about 10 minutes left. And
Okay.
I said that we would have some Q&A. But I also feel that the things that we've discussed have been very beneficial, I think, hopefully enlightening to people who are joining us. And I know that we're at different levels of understanding here, just collectively, everybody in a community anyway. But I'd like to ask anybody who might have a question to put it in the chat. And, or maybe if you have a comment or something along those lines, if you need something clarified, then let's take a few minutes and do that too, okay? We'll do those over the last 10 minutes.
Joe, I kind of do want to say something. For all of the light workers, the light walkers, the people that truly want to do the work and integrate this new consciousness, and everybody that's here listening to this does, or they wouldn't be listening to this. That's just how it is, because this energy actually attracted you to this to gain understanding. And so what I want to tell everybody is that to do this work, continue to do your normal job if that's what you need to do for the time being, but slowly remove the fear around having that job and slowly start feeling what your heart came here on this planet to do. And then figure out how to bring it out into reality for others, because that's the energy that we're going to start working with. And Joe, you're doing this. You're already, it's like I said, you jumped ahead in line, and you're doing this, and you're integrating it, and you're leading by example. Yes. And so I have to congratulate you for doing that. And anybody who needs any kind of spiritual production, anything, Joe he has helped me so much, everyone, in every way, through our talks, through production, through everything, website technology. I stood behind a chair, you guys, and I worked on people, and I talked with people all day long for 15 years. So Joe comes into my life, and he's like, it's okay. I'll help you. I'll show you. And he's coming from his heart, and he's not feeling like I'm going to take from him. And I don't feel like I feel like it's just a really neutral, good space. So anybody that needs any kind of help on their journey, please reach out to Joe, please.
Well, thank you, Beverly. I didn't expect to hear something like that. Thank you. That's very nice. Just for anybody who wasn't watching, I went like this when she was talking about what I was doing, because I do want to say this, that for the longest time, I would hear from people that what I was doing, Joe, you're already doing this. You're already doing it. And I just wasn't seeing it. And people have told me before, I just said that, but there was something in what Beverly told me that finally got me to fully understand. And I think it had to do with this conversation that we had on this particular topic as it relates to the human value system. Because I recognized that, well, she said I jumped ahead of the line or something like that, but I recognized that I embraced, you could say, where we're headed several years ago, but never really acknowledged it. And there's much more to that. You could say there's a story behind all that. And it hasn't been an easy story to live. But it was one that for me just had to be lived that way, because it didn't feel right doing it any other way. So thank you, Beverly. Thank you very much.
Yeah. You're lighting the path for the rest of us to see the way through. That's huge. We didn't even get to talk about the Great Conjunction and how, when I walked you through that, how you fully understood the importance of our heart space, and how the fourth chakra in that system is literally the balance to the higher dimensions and the lower dimensions. And that's the neutral place when you can come from your heart. It's the most important place for all of us to integrate and understand before we can reach higher to these other dimensions and these ascensions. And if we're not coming from our heart, it's not balanced. And that's what we're all here to do. We're all here to create this balance and learn.
Okay, before I look in the comments here, I love that you said that. What was that you just said about the heart? If we're not doing it from our hearts, it's not balanced?
Yes.
Yeah?
Because it's literally the middle point in our energetic system.
And when you say the energetic system, you're referring to, very simply, our chakras that people are familiar with. Yeah,
that we all have. We walk around with.
Okay. All right, let me get to the comments here. First of all, Karen says, thank you, Joe and Beverly, for this beautiful presentation. I understand better stepping into the age of Aquarius. Do either of you have some simple steps for getting into both the now and our hearts, or out of our headspace? Beverly?
Yes, I do. When you find yourself falling into the same routine, having the same feelings, pay attention to that, because that's your guide to change it up. If you walk every morning at 8:30, try walking at 8:30 that night. Start changing things, start feeling things differently, start paying attention to the conscious thought process that's going on into your mind. It's the biggest thing. When you can start consciously hearing your thoughts, the thoughts are what's creating your reality, because they are vibration. If you are not in a reality that is something that you want to create, stop yourself. Start feeling where these thoughts come from, what they vibrate with. Start processing them. And everybody's going to find ways to do this in their own sense. If you need quiet space, value that. Start valuing yourself. That's part of this too. You say, oh, I'm overwhelmed. Okay, you're at work. Take a bathroom break, go in the stall. Take a quiet moment for yourself and value yourself. Change it up. There's a way to alchemize this in every situation and start changing the status quo from within. And each of us hold responsibility to it. For any of us to think that we're just going to snap, be in this beautiful existence, that's an ego-based thought. This is a continual process. We are processing so much information that has existed for so long. I'm sorry, I just read something that somebody wrote.
Oh, I wanted to add this, Karen, and anybody else who's interested. Turn it into, and this is exactly what Beverly said. I'm just adding something to it. Turn it into a practice. Embrace it as a practice. I want to tell you that in the last year, I've had many practices, and in the last year, I've had a breathing practice. I've actually even had a partner who I do this breathing practice with every day, every evening. And it's something that takes a few minutes. And the beauty of it is that it stemmed from something that I had already unconsciously developed as a practice, and that's taking deep breaths throughout my day, breathing. So the bottom line is be patient with yourself as you go along. Just do it a little bit at a time. Beverly suggested some very practical ideas under different scenarios. Be patient. Be okay with however you implement it. Just keep doing it. Just keep doing it. Because then it'll become a habit. Okay? All right. Thank you, Beverly. Tim comments. He says, always wanted to know what I really wanted to be when I grow up. Time to tune in. Thank you, Beverly and Joe. Thanks, Tim.
Yeah, we're on to that. That's where we are. Everybody needs to go into their childlike state. What excited you when you were 5, when you were 8 years old, whatever those ages were, where you saw that excitement? That's what we're learning. We're relearning that, and sometimes when you bring those things up, some of us are going to have traumas to work through, but we do need to work through these traumas. We don't need to shelf them. We don't need to shove them under the rug or hide them in the closet anymore. We face them and realize that fear and that trauma was created, and that we have to transmit the creation so it quits playing out and we don't pass it on to other generations, and we don't share it with each other in the collective. We all hold responsibility. Some of us are going to have days where we're pissed, and I get that. Go be pissed. Go get a punching bag if you need to. Change it up. Go beat the crap out of a punching bag and get those thoughts out of your head and get them on that bag and start processing this stuff, and then alchemize it when you're ready and go, okay, this has lived in me and it has taken up space and it has taken up time. It has taken up creation energy that we all have. It takes up creation energy. Now I'm going to release it. And now I'm going to replace it. Because here's the other thing. Humans always think, oh, if I get rid of it, it's like a loss, right? It's gone. We're losing it. Replace everything. Replace it with the vibration you want. We all get to choose that. If you want white light, you want gold light, you want green heart-centered light, replace the thoughts, replace the energy, replace the feelings. Don't just get rid of it. Process it. Let it have its moment. Beat the crap out of it. And then go, okay, enough's enough. It's taken up enough of my space and my time. I release. And now I replace it with this. And I want everybody to start understanding that and start integrating this. Like Joe said, breathing. Breathing helps center you. It helps calm you, helps bring you into your heart, which he's very good at knowing his heart space, everybody. So pay attention to him. So yes, I want to give useful, helpful hints and tips to work through this as a collective with where we're at. So all of the light walkers, all of the light workers, all of the people wanting change, everybody that's here and all of the people not here that are going to tune into this, we hold a responsibility together. We want this together. So let's do this together. Beautiful.
Beverly, we have just one more comment before we close. I wish we could close on that. Nevertheless, I want to say this because I did read the other comments. Mimi says, all the information feels so right, and I feel like it's a struggle at times to remain in an implementation mode. But I believe I have to allow myself the time to learn. The chakras portion was like an aha moment. So thank you for all of this and for the help.
Joe, we really need to touch base on that great conjunction.
Deal.
Not today, but we need to. Yes.
Yeah. Well, you and I will be talking about topics certainly for our next episode. And if there's something that's left unfinished or undiscussed from this one, then perhaps we can continue on. If not the next one, perhaps in a later one at that. Because I do definitely want to provide a complete picture as much as you're willing to or feel prepared to present to the audience. I think you did a fabulous job, Beverly. And you know what's amazing to me is that this is something that's brand new to you. You feel like a natural.
Oh, yeah, this is, it's not natural to me. It is brand new. It's natural for you, but you're helping me integrate in a peaceful way. I do want to touch base. One last thing that's come into my mind while we've got everybody here. And that is this fear of like the 1% that everyone talks about, and machines and robots taking over and all of that stuff. The reason why we're all here now and we're all coming into our fourth density consciousness is to actually kind of go backwards a little bit and kind of learn how to do things organically, and then create the technology to do it for us in an organic sense, in a more heart-based center. So sometimes we have to go backwards to go forwards in a more positive manner for this part of the vibration of people, of collectiveness that want it in a more organic way, in a more peaceful way, a more neutral way, instead of the form of control. So we're all here and we all have something to contribute to this, to teach these technologies how we want to be treated, not let them take over. That's all fear. That's not what's going on now. We're here to teach them what our needs are, but we all have to come into our hearts first and figure out what those needs truly are as a collective, and then develop it from there.
All right, Beverly, thank you so much for today. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Very intentional.
Thank you for everything.
Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Okay, everybody. Goodbye. Bye.
Bye.